Hi, everyone. This is the Hungry Math Professor here. Welcome to my channel. And today we're going to discuss Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Um, this book was published in 2005, and Ishiguro wins the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2017. And at the outset, I'll just mention there's a movie that was made in 2010. It's well casted. It's Carey Mulligan, Andrew Garfield, and Keira Knightley, 7.1 on IMDb. And I would recommend actually watching the movie after you read the book, only because in this case, the movie is so close to the story of the book that it's just a nice way to kind of like reflect on the book again, think about the plot one more time. Um, and it's really well done. So I would recommend read the book first and then watch the movie as a way of kind of like rehashing some of what's going on. So this book, uh, basically, it surrounds three characters. I mean, you meet more than three characters, but it's basically about three characters, Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy, and it's going to involve their relationships together throughout the book and some of the other characters that come along. And it's narrated by Kathy. And these kids start at a boarding school called Halsham, and they're just kids growing up in this boarding school. And there's these guardians, they call them, which are the adults in the room who are taking care of them, and they're their teachers, and watching them in different things. And as the story progresses, there's a little bit of tension you can tell between the guardians, and you're not sure why, and you're kind of kept in the dark, which I would say is kind of fun, because you're slowly given a little bit more and a little bit more insight. And what you find out eventually is that these kids are actually clones of other people that are living in the regular society. And the reason why they clone these kids is because eventually they're going to harvest them for their organs. So the person that they clone them from maybe needs a kidney, then they will just take a kidney from one of these cloned children, or an eye or whatever, whatever they need, they will use these children as donations. Basically, they donate they live just to donate their organs, which is a pretty dark and intense kind of plot to think about. That's why this book gets called a sci-fi novel. I'll just say now, I really thought this was a very interesting concept for a sci-fi novel, but I would not call this a sci-fi novel because the author barely uses this plot device. He doesn't, in my opinion, he does not really lean into the sci-fi aspects, and it feels like a missed opportunity for me, honestly, because I think it's just a really cool, I mean, dark, but like a really interesting idea to explore more directly. So I just needed to get that out of the way. I wish there was a book where they took that idea and explored it like full on as a sci-fi novel. I would read that. But I still think this is a really good book. It's just not that plot device of them being of being donating their organs is important for the book, but it's only important in like an indirect way. So I'll get to that. And as these kids are in this boarding school, they're constantly encouraged to make these art projects. And you're not sure why they're being encouraged. The students don't really know why either, but it's like somehow woven into the social fabric. So these kids get really excited about it and they want their art projects to get picked. And it just creates this like little social dynamic between these kids. And what you find out later is the reason why they're being encouraged to make these art projects is because the adults in the room are going to pick the best art projects. They put them in this art show. The students know about that. They just don't know what the art show is for. And what you find out is that the art show is the guardians are trying to use this to cause empathy amongst the regular society for these kids. Like, look, these kids are making these beautiful art projects. They're not just things that people that we should use to harvest their organs, right? They're clearly just as much as people as we are. Why are we doing this, right? They're trying to point to the fact that this is unethical. Like we shouldn't be doing this. And so it's not a bad idea, right? Like showing kids art projects, is definitely a good strategy for trying to get the rest of society to empathize with these kids. It turns out that it doesn't work. and again, we're not really given much insight into like what's going on in the society, and what is the struggle there. And again, I think it's because this book is not really about the main plot device, unfortunately. But again, I do think there's some interesting aspects. So after these kids go to boarding school until they're around 18, and then they get sent to like a halfway house where they are with other, kids that are going to donate their organs. And they're kind of on their own, and they can drive now and they can do their own thing. But eventually, after this like halfway house period, they're going to become carers. So as a carer, you're going to take care of people who have donated their organs. And you can be a carer for a short amount of time or a long amount of time. We never really quite find out exactly how that time period is decided. Maybe it depends on whether or not you're the person, someone needs a donation or not. But then at some point, you go from being a carer to being someone who's donating their organs. And you know, there's a lot of tension around like how many donations someone could survive, right? Like some people donate one organ and die right away. Some people donate one, two, three organs, and they survive. And of course, their condition deteriorates. And at the end of the book, for this one character, Tommy, he has to give a fourth donation, and it's like kind of known that nobody survives four donations, and if they do survive, it's not a very good survival anyway after that. Um, and so a lot of the book is really about this, again, Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy, this little like love triangle. And there's like this will they, won't they kind of thing between Kathy and Tommy. And Kathy and Ruth wind up being in a or sorry, Ruth and Tommy wind up being in a relationship for a long time. And anyway, there's a lot of the book is about just studying the characters, these kids, and watching them develop and watching them struggle with sort of like what's their meaning in life, and how do they, as they find out more and more about their situation, how do they handle that, how do they decide what to do with the time that they do have. And I think that's really what a lot of the book's about. I think the author is trying to say, just trying to point to the fact that like all of us have to deal with our mortality. All of us are going to die at some point in our lives. And, most of us distract ourselves from that for most of our lives. But the truth is that at some point we're going to have to face it a little bit more head on, because some, things in life will force us to. And also maybe when we're distracting ourselves, that's somehow a implicitly we're letting our mortality affect us by, how we distract ourselves. And I think another point he might be trying to make here is that we look at these characters in the book who are donating their organs. This is a terrible situation that they're in, it feels like. But in some sense, in some simplified sense, like we're in a similar situation. We're all going to die at some point. The difference is we just don't have as direct information about when that's going to happen. But we're still having to make decisions about what's the meaning of our lives if we're just going to die. And what if we die, sooner than we thought? What does that mean? And how should we deal with that? How should we choose to spend our time? And so even though these characters are in this terrible situation and it's clearly unethical, um, we are studying sort of how would we choose to live our lives if we were in that situation, right? They're still facing mortality, and um, there's still a question of what's the best way to take advantage of the time that we do have. So I think the book is good. The characters to me are not as interesting as I would like from something that I think is mostly a character study. This book is, I think, mostly a character study, and I would have preferred to see um, a little bit more development of the sci-fi aspect. This is not a sci-fi book. It just has this sci-fi aspect to it, and it's not really well developed. And so, anyway, the book is very well received. And so I wonder if I just missed something, or maybe it just wasn't for me, or I cared for the sci-fi plot too much. So let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. And in particular for this book, let me know if you think I missed something big. Okay, I hope to see you at another discussion. Thanks.